بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. A few months ago, the Assembly of Muslim Majorities of America, AMJA, convened for its 19th Imams Conference, and the topic of the conference was ruling on contemporary medical issues in Islamic law. I'll be sharing with you two topics and the recommendations of AMJA regarding those two topics. The first topic is the fiqh of medical treatment in practice. Underneath that topic, there are three subtopics, which are one, medical treatment with prohibited substances such as alcohol, narcotics, and drug causing psychological and mood changes. The second subtopic is rulings on induced coma, and the third subtopic is Muslim physicians prescribing prohibited medications to non-Muslims. As for the second topic is fertility and genetics, and underneath that, there's also three subtopics we'll be touching on. The first is genetic modification and gene therapy and their impact on pregnancy and miscarriage. The second subtopic is selecting the sex of the fetus. And the last subtopic is abortion. Now let's start with the first topic, which is the fiqh of medical treatments and practices. And underneath that, the first thing we're going to touch on is the medical treatment with prohibited substances such as alcohol, narcotics, and drug causing psychological and mood changes. The first recommendation in this category is that the default principle is to avoid prohibited substances in medical treatment and otherwise, including narcotics. However, their use may be permitted when there is a verified therapeutic necessity and no alternatives are available, with consideration given to minimizing side effects on the mind and body as much as possible, and that this is fully under the supervision of a trustworthy physician. The second recommendation, it is not permissible to use pure alcohol for medication treatment, and it is inconceivable that it would be a necessity in our contemporary reality. The third recommendation, narcotics, despite being unanimously prohibited due to their mind-altering effects, drowsiness, and harm, may still be used for medical treatment in their pure form, as they do not possess all the rulings associated with alcohol, being free from the excitement and rowdiness that alcohol can lead to. However, it is obligatory to mix them with other painkillers when possible and appropriate to minimize the amount consumed, as necessity should be assessed according to its extent. The fourth recommendation, it is advisable to avoid alcohol as much as possible in the manufacturing of medicine and in prescribing them to patients. However, the use of medications that contain small diluted proportions of alcohol, which do not affect the color, taste, or smell, do not cause intoxication to the consumer, is permitted. At the same time, there has to be emphasis on the importance of avoiding this as much as possible. The fifth recommendation, which is regarding the use of sedative anesthetics and toxic nerve damaging substances, is that it is permitted for medical purposes when, one, the benefit outweighs the harms, two, no alternatives are available, and three, there is consideration for minimizing side effects on the mind and body as much as possible. We have to mention that this is all provided that it is being under the full supervision of a trustworthy physician. The sixth recommendation is that the use of hallucinogenic drugs is permitted if their benefit in treating certain diseases is proven, like other narcotics under the same conditions that have been mentioned in the previous recommendation. The medical use of prohibited substances is conditioned upon four things. First, it being determined with certainty or the preponderance of the evidence that such usage is a necessity. Two, the lack of permissible alternatives. Three, supervision by medical specialists and making sure that the benefits outweigh the harm. And lastly, the consideration for minimizing side effects on the mind and body as much as possible. Additionally, it is the responsibility of the medical community to continuously search for permissible alternatives. In the subcategory of rulings in induced coma, the recommendation of AMJA is that induced coma is a type of long-term anesthesia often used to protect the brain in specific cases. It is permissible due to medical necessity. For the one whose coma lasts more than a day and a night, there is no requirement to make up for the missed prayers. In the subcategory of Muslim physicians prescribing prohibited medication to non-Muslims, the recommendation is that concerning any issue that has a respected difference of opinion among the scholars of Islam, it is not obligatory to make non-Muslim patients adhere to what we consider the strongest opinion. Amongst the treatments that have been subject to different opinion and which are permissible to prescribe to non-Muslims are: 1, impure medications, except for pure alcohol, due to the weakness of disagreement regarding it; 2, narcotics and marijuana with legal and professional standards; 3, musical instruments; 4, cosmetic surgeries that are subject to different opinions; and 5, abortion before ensoulment and the like. The second recommendation in the subcategory is that the same ruling of permissibility applies to anything that is not absolutely prohibited in all circumstances, such as tubal ligation, preventative surgeries, and artificial insemination of an egg with sperm from someone other than the legal husband, due to the inability to ascertain their circumstances and verify the legitimacy of the relationship according to their arrangements and systems, especially since there are Muslims themselves who do not register their marriage. The third recommendation is that the following are forbidden: to lie to the patient and mislead them, such as encouraging them to undergo gender reassignment surgery without the presence of an organic disorder, or to continue a prohibited relationship. It is also prohibited to alter the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to remove healthy organs without cause, which includes gender reassignment surgeries for those who are physically healthy. It is also prohibited to prescribe pure alcohol, as it is not considered a remedy in Sharia or medicine. Assisting in what is called euthanasia is also prohibited. This will end the topic that is associated with the medical, the fiqh of medical treatment and practice. In the second topic, which is the fertility and genetics, under the first topic of genetic modification and gene therapy and their impact on pregnancy and miscarriage, the recommendation of AMJA is that first, gene therapy is permissible, whether by transferring all or parts of genes, repairing them, or silencing them, provided that 1, it does not lead to the mixing of lineage; 2, that the intention is treatment and not changing the creation; and 3, protecting the privacy of individuals undergoing this treatment, safeguarding all their rights and not discriminating against them. The second recommendation is that some genetic diseases can be considered among the defects that jurists have mentioned as justifying the separation between spouses, providing that the conditions are met and that these diseases to share the same relational as their jurisprudential counterparts in the absence of impediments. Now, this applies to 1, when such diseases are unknown at the time of the marriage contact; 2, there is no indication of acceptance to this disease afterward; and 3, there is no available treatment to alleviate the disease, and especially when there is a likelihood of transmitting serious diseases to offspring. The third recommendation is that genetic counseling for families or of those planning to marry is in line with the principles of Sharia that encourage treatment and prevention of disease. It should be encouraged without being mandatory, especially for families with members suffering from hereditary diseases, while ensuring the protection of the privacy of individuals undergoing such tests, their rights, and no discrimination against them. The fourth recommendation in the treatment of genetic diseases, if it is impossible to select a sperm or egg from the couple that does not carry the diseased gene, then replacing one of them with what is called a donor cell is absolutely prohibited due to the resulting mixing of lineage. Fifth recommendation, it is encouraged for decision-making bodies in countries to enact laws that assist individuals with genetic diseases and those with special needs, and to provide support for them in various fields, including efforts to integrate them into society and create suitable conditions for this purpose. Under the set category of selecting the sex of the fetus, the first recommendation in this category that is made by AMJA is that we affirm what is stated in the decision of the Fiqh Council affiliated with the Muslim World League in its 19th session held in Mecca, which is that any medical intervention to select the gender of the fetus is not permissible, except in cases of therapeutic necessity for hereditary diseases that affect males without females, or vice versa. In such cases, intervention is permissible, subject to the established Sharia guidelines. The second recommendation in this category of selecting sex fetus is that an exception to this is the permissibility of choosing either gender if fertilization has occurred outside the womb due to a medical condition that necessitated it, and multiple fertilized eggs are present, necessitating the selection of one for implantation in the womb. In the subcategory of abortion, the recommendation of AMJA is that the basic rule regarding abortion is prohibition except in cases of necessity. It may be permitted in the first 40 days for a clear need or an apparent benefit. In the case of severe deformities and diseases, the permission extends to before the time of ensoulment in the fetus, which is 120 days. If continuing pregnancy poses a danger to the mother's life, then abortion is permissible at any time, as the mother's life is the foundation and it is an established life. This is the end of the recommendations associated in this regarding those two topics and subcategories. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير.